The unexpected recruit. The docking clamps engaged with a metallic thud as the transport vessel secured itself to the Galactic Defense Academy's orbital station. Marcus Chen stood alone in the observation deck, watching through the viewport as the magnificent structure came into view. The Academy, a massive construct of gleaming alloys and pulsing energy fields, housed the elite training facility for the Galactic Confederation's future officers. Marcus took a deep breath, his hand unconsciously rising to touch the Earth insignia on his uniform collar. He was the first human ever admitted to the Academy, a diplomatic concession following Earth's recent admission to the Confederation. 3 years since first contact, and humanity was still viewed with a mixture of curiosity and wariness by the galactic community. Deathworlder passenger Chen, prepare for disembarkation, the ship's AI announced, the translation slightly off in its attempt to pronounce his name. Marcus grimaced at the term. Deathworlder, technically accurate given Earth's high gravity, volatile weather patterns, and abundance of predators, but used with thinly veiled disdain throughout the Confederation. As the airlock cycled open, Marcus felt the subtle shift in gravity. The station maintained Confederation standard gravity, approximately 0.7 Earth normal, making each step feel unnaturally light. He'd trained for months in simulated low-gravity environments, but the real experience still required conscious adjustment to avoid bounding awkwardly through the corridors. Human Chen, identification and processing, chirped a multi-limbed being with pale blue skin and compound eyes that shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. Marcus recognized the species as Tellurian, one of the founding members of the Confederation. Marcus Chen, Earth Delegation, he replied, presenting his credentials chip. The Tellurian's appendages waved in what Marcus had learned was a gesture of surprise. First human admitted to the Academy. Interesting specimen. The translator rendered the last word with uncomfortable accuracy. Proceed to medical evaluation in Section 12 Delta for Deathworld biosafety protocols. Marcus followed the floating directional indicators through the station, acutely aware of the stares from beings of dozens of different species. Some showed obvious curiosity, others unmistakable discomfort or disdain. A group of cadets with metallic exoskeletons whispered as he passed, their translator modules deactivated, but Marcus's enhanced hearing implant, standard for all human diplomatic personnel, caught fragments of their conversation, supposedly evolved from prey animals. Heard they still sleep every cycle, completely vulnerable. Primitive endoskeleton, no natural defenses. Marcus maintained his composure, focusing instead on the station's impressive architecture. The main concourse stretched for kilometers, with various sections branching off to specialized training facilities. Overhead, automated transport pods zipped along magnetic rails, carrying cadets and instructors between distant sections of the station. At medical processing, a multi-armed medical officer with glistening green scales examined him with unconcealed fascination. Fascinating redundant organ systems, the medical officer commented, reviewing Marcus's bioscan. Primitive but effective immune response, significant muscle density relative to mass. The being's pupils contracted suddenly. Is it true your species contains hypochloric acid internally? Just in our stomachs. For digestion, Marcus explained patiently, having anticipated this question. It stays where it belongs. Remarkable evolutionary adaptation, the officer muttered, adding several notation glyphs to Marcus's file. Classified as Category 4 hazardous physiology, but cleared for general population interaction. Report to Dormitory Sector Epsilon 7, Habitation Unit 219. Orientation begins in 2 standard intervals. The dormitory was designed for species with vastly different environmental needs. Marcus's assigned quarters were Spartan but comfortable enough, with a sleek platform that could be adjusted for various gravity preferences. His 3 roommates hadn't arrived yet, giving him time to unpack his few personal belongings. A small holographic projector with family images, a data crystal containing Earth's literature database, and a small stone from Mount Everest, a gift from his grandfather. 2 hours later, Marcus joined nearly 400 other first-year cadets in the central auditorium. The diversity was staggering. Beings that floated on gas cushions, multi-limbed arthropods with chitinous exoskeletons, amorphous entities contained in environmental suits, and dozens more variations. He was the only human instantly identifiable among the assembled species. Academy Commandant Vox there, a tall, elegant being with 4 arms and silvery skin covered in geometric patterns, stood on the central platform. The insignia on the commandant's uniform glowed with subtle energy signatures, indicating achievements beyond Marcus's understanding of Confederation military protocols. Cadets, the commandant's voice resonated through the chamber without apparent amplification. You represent 46 sovereign worlds and 17 independent stellar collectives. You are here because your respective governments believe you capable of upholding the principles and defense of our Confederation. The commandant's 4 eyes swept across the assembly, pausing momentarily on Marcus. The Academy does not recognize species, planetary origin, or evolutionary advantages. Here, you will be measured solely by your performance, adaptability, and dedication. Near Marcus, a tentacled cadet with purple-tinged skin leaned toward a companion. The human is fascinating, the being whispered. I heard their planet is so unstable. They evolved pain resistance beyond comprehension. I heard they consume neurotoxins for pleasure, replied the other, a being with a crystalline exoskeleton that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. Marcus pretended not to hear, though his translator and enhanced hearing caught every word. These misconceptions were common, based partly on truth but distorted through alien perspectives. Yes, humans consumed caffeine and alcohol, technically poisons. Yes, some humans participated in activities that caused controlled pain for entertainment or challenge. But these aliens made humanity sound like masochistic poison drinkers. After orientation, the cadets proceeded to the assessment center, a massive chamber filled with equipment designed to establish baseline physical and cognitive abilities for each species. Instructor Krell, a stocky orange-skinned being with movements like flowing liquid, explained the process. Each of you will complete testing appropriate to your species' known capabilities. These results establish your training baseline. Be advised that the Academy standards exceed the average capabilities of your respective species. Marcus waited his turn, observing as others demonstrated remarkable abilities, some displaying incredible flexibility, others astonishing strength within their gravity parameters, still others exhibiting sensory or mental capabilities that seemed almost magical to human perception. When Marcus's turn came, Instructor Krell consulted his datapad. Human. Deathworlder parameters. The instructor adjusted several settings on the equipment. Begin with the endurance circuit. The endurance circuit looked straightforward enough. A track with varying terrain, obstacles, and elevation changes. Marcus began at a steady pace, finding that the lighter gravity gave his movements a strange, bouncy quality until he adjusted his technique. As he continued, increasing his speed, he noticed Instructor Krell and several other aliens watching with increasing attention. What felt like a moderate jog to Marcus was apparently producing unexpected readings on their monitoring equipment. By the time he completed the circuit, he had barely broken a sweat, while representatives of other species had required rest periods or stimulant interventions. Continue to strength assessment, Instructor Krell directed, his voice carefully neutral despite the growing crowd of observers. The strength tests produced similar results. What seemed reasonable effort to Marcus caused the equipment to register unexpected readings. By the time he finished the full assessment battery, a small crowd had gathered. Fascinating, noted Instructor Krell, recording the results. Perhaps there is something to these Deathworlders after all. In the dining hall that evening, Marcus sat alone with his nutrient pack, labeled Earth-compatible. The synthesized approximation of Earth food tasted bland, but familiar enough. As he ate, he observed the various species around him, noting how many glanced his way with newfound curiosity. A slender cadet with feathery appendages approached his table. "You are the human," the alien stated simply. I am Xerix. My world has zero point 0.9 standard gravity. Not a death world, but closer than most here. May I join you? Marcus nodded, grateful for the gesture. Your assessment results are already circulating among the instructors, Xerix said, settling across from him. They did not expect such physical capabilities. I think many here underestimated what evolution on a high-gravity world might produce. I'm just average for a human, Marcus replied truthfully. Then perhaps the Confederation has much to learn about humans. Xerix's feathers rippled in what might have been amusement. Some lessons will be harder for some to accept than others. Over the next 2 months, Marcus established himself as an exceptional cadet. His physical capabilities consistently exceeded expectations, and while some alien technologies presented learning challenges, his problem-solving abilities compensated effectively. He developed a small circle of associates, not quite friends yet, but beings who approached him with curiosity rather than prejudice. Then came the announcement that would change everything: the commencement of the Centauri trials. The trials represent the ultimate test of officer potential, explained tactical instructor Revtan, a being composed of interlocking crystalline segments. 7 simulated environments, each deadlier than the last, designed to test survival, adaptation, and leadership under extreme conditions. Traditionally, only third-year cadets attempt the trials. The current completion record stands at 42 standard days. Marcus studied the holographic display of previous attempts. No first-year cadet had ever completed the trials. Most third years required multiple attempts. The dropout rate exceeded 70%. That evening, Marcus made his decision. He formally requested permission to attempt the Centauri trials. The request caused immediate controversy. Director Kuvlax summoned Marcus to his office, where several senior instructors had gathered. This request is unprecedented. The director's skin shifted from its normal pale blue to a deeper shade indicating concern. The trials are not for first-year cadets, especially not. He stopped himself. Especially not Deathworlders. Marcus completed the thought calmly. Commander Vrel, whose scaled skin reflected the office lights in shimmering patterns, made no attempt to hide her skepticism. When you fail, it will remind everyone why Deathworlders must recognize their limitations. Instructor Krell, who had been monitoring Marcus's progress with growing interest, interjected. His performance metrics suggest capability beyond our initial assessment parameters. After heated debate, Director Kuvlax rendered his decision. The human may attempt the trials. He will sign the enhanced risk waiver, and we will extract him at the first sign of life-threatening danger. 3 days later, Marcus stood in the preparation chamber as Instructor Krell explained the challenge ahead. The Centauri trials are not merely a test, but a simulation of the most hostile planetary conditions encountered in Confederation territory. You will face 7 distinct environments, each designed to push the limits of survival capability. Marcus examined the equipment laid out before him. A standard survival pack containing universal tools, water purifier, emergency rations, and an emergency beacon. The beacon is not shame, Krell emphasized. Many fine cadets have activated it when the challenge became too great. I understand, Marcus replied simply. Word of the human attempt spread quickly through the academy. By evening, betting pools had formed, with the odds heavily against Marcus. 3 days before he hits the beacon, predicted a senior cadet from a mineral-based species. 2 days, countered another. The acid swamp alone will break him. Xerix, who had become something of an ally to Marcus, placed a small bet that the human would last at least a week. Others laughed at this optimism. That night, Marcus reviewed Earth's survival manuals on his datapad. The techniques developed on his homeworld had served humans for thousands of years across deserts, mountains, forests, and oceans. Earth itself had been the ultimate training ground. Tomorrow, he would show the Confederation exactly what a Deathworlder could do. Defying expectations. The entrance to the Centauri trials was a simple airlock, deceptively ordinary given what lay beyond. A small crowd had gathered to witness Marcus's attempt, some out of curiosity, others to see the human fail. Commander Vrel stood at the forefront, her scaled face impassive. "Remember, Cadet, there is no dishonor in recognizing your limitations," she said, scales shifting in patterns that suggested anticipation. Marcus simply nodded. Any response would be interpreted as either arrogance or fear, neither of which would serve him. The airlock cycled, and an automated voice announced, "Centauri trial sequence initiating. Environment 1 preparing. Cadet vital signs monitoring active. Emergency protocol standing by." Marcus took a deep breath as the inner door slid open. "Begin," announced the system. A wave of hot, humid air washed over him, carrying the smell of sulfur, decay, and something alien he couldn't identify. Before him stretched a vast swamp with bubbling pools of greenish liquid and twisted vegetation rising from the muck. The light was dim, filtered through a thick canopy above and heavy fog. In the observation center, officers watched through monitoring screens as Marcus stepped into the swamp without hesitation. "Most species take hours just to analyze the environment," noted Instructor Krell. Commander Vrel made a dismissive sound. "Rushing in shows poor judgment." But Marcus wasn't rushing blindly. His eyes narrowed as he assessed the toxic swamp simulation. Where other species might hesitate, he moved with purpose. Earth's varied biomes had prepared him for environments far more diverse than most Confederation species encountered on their homeworlds. He tested the ground before each step, using a tool from his pack as a probe. When he identified what appeared to be a solid path, he moved with efficiency. The monitoring team watched in surprise as Marcus made more progress in 2 hours than most cadets did in 2 days. "His technique is unusual," observed the commandant, who had joined the observation. "He's not avoiding the challenges. He's seeking the most efficient path through them." By midday, Marcus encountered his first major obstacle, a wide stretch of bubbling liquid too toxic for extended exposure and too wide to circumnavigate within the simulation's boundaries. Most cadets constructed rafts from the available vegetation, a process that typically took days of careful work. The monitors watched, expecting Marcus to begin this standard approach. Instead, he studied the liquid itself, then the surrounding plant life. Finding a particular type of reed, he gathered several. After stripping them down, he bound them together to create a long breathing tube. "What is he doing?" Director Kuvlax asked, leaning forward. The answer came as Marcus waded into the liquid, the breathing tube in his mouth, his pack held above his head. He walked across the bottom of the toxic pool, completely submerged except for the tip of his breathing tube. "Incredible," whispered Xerix, who had come to watch. "Our species would never consider that approach." The psychological barrier of submersion in toxic liquid. Commander Vrel's scales darkened. One obstacle. There are many more ahead. By nightfall, Marcus had covered distance that should have taken 3 days. He found a relatively safe spot on elevated ground, checked his equipment, and consumed a ration pack. The monitoring team expected him to rest. Most species required significant recovery time after such exertion. Instead, after just 4 hours of sleep, Marcus was moving again, using the night's slightly cooler conditions to his advantage. "His endurance is remarkable," Instructor Krell noted, updating his records. "But surely the cumulative stress will affect him soon." The commandant's 4 eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Perhaps, or perhaps we've underestimated what evolution on a death world truly means." The acid swamp was merely the beginning. Beyond it lay 6 more environments, each designed to test different survival parameters. A desiccating desert with temperatures exceeding most species' tolerance limits, an Arctic zone with dangerous crystalline formations, a volcanic region with unstable terrain and toxic gas vents, a high-pressure underwater section, a zero-gravity asteroid field simulation, and finally, the dreaded Zone 7, a combination of all previous hazards with added electromagnetic disruption that rendered most technology unreliable. By the end of the first week, Marcus had cleared 3 environments. The Academy buzzed with rumors as the human consistently defied expectations. Senior cadets who had once scoffed now gathered around monitoring stations, watching his progress with growing amazement. In the desert simulation, where most species constructed elaborate shelters above ground, Marcus dug beneath the sand during peak heat hours, using the Earth's natural insulation properties. In the Arctic zone, instead of following the safe but time-consuming ice bridges, he developed a technique to test ice thickness with sonic resonance, creating direct paths across frozen lakes. In the observation center, science officer Shrital stared at the data screens, her translucent tentacles pulsing with patterns that indicated disbelief among her species. "It's unprecedented," she murmured, reviewing the data. "His endurance readings exceed our established parameters for sentient species." "Earth gravity is 1.4 times our standard," replied Medical Officer Pex. "His muscle density alone provides advantages, but it's more than that. Look at his problem-solving patterns." The officer gestured toward recordings showing Marcus adapting to each new environment with remarkable speed. While other species followed established protocols, he improvised continuously. "And his stress response is unlike anything in our database," added Pex. "Where most species show increasing anxiety with cumulative challenges, his biochemistry suggests optimization under pressure." The volcano environment had the highest withdrawal rate. Most cadets activated their emergency beacons by the third day. Marcus approached a wide lava flow that blocked the direct path. Instead of taking the safe route that added days to the journey, he fashioned heat shields for his legs from the specialized materials in his pack, then sprinted across a narrow section of the flow, his movements quick and precise. "Is he insane?" gasped Director Kuvlax, witnessing this maneuver. "No," Drital responded, her body pulsing with light patterns indicating excitement. "He calculated the risk. Look at his vital signs. Elevated but controlled. His species can regulate their stress response." Indeed, the biological monitoring showed Marcus's heart rate increased before the crossing, then stabilized during the actual danger. "That's not normal," muttered Commander Vrel. "Most species' stress indicators spike during danger." "For a prey species, perhaps," suggested Instructor Krell. "But humans evolved as pursuit predators. Their biochemistry appears optimized for controlled stress response during challenging activities." By the beginning of the third week, Marcus entered the zero-gravity section. Most cadets struggled with orientation and movement in this environment, requiring days to develop effective navigation techniques. Marcus, having trained extensively in Earth's orbital facilities, moved with confidence, using momentum and inertia with intuitive precision. "He's on pace to break the record by a significant margin," Xerix noted to a group of cadets watching the feeds. The betting pools had shifted dramatically, no longer questioning if Marcus would complete the trials, but how quickly. Commander Vrel remained skeptical. "Zone 7 will break him. No first year has ever completed it." Zone 7 was the culmination of the trials, a shifting labyrinth combining hostile elements from all previous environments, with the added complication of electromagnetic interference that disrupted most technology. Navigation became nearly impossible, communication unreliable, and even basic tools functioned intermittently. As Marcus entered this final challenge on day 25, the entire academy seemed to pause. Classes were rescheduled as both students and instructors gathered to watch. The current record holder, Commander Vrel herself, had taken 42 days to complete the trials. The fastest first attempt was 67 days. The electromagnetic interference made monitoring difficult, with only occasional glimpses of Marcus's progress available. What they did see astonished even his supporters. When his navigation tools failed, he reverted to primitive techniques, using star positions and environmental markers. When faced with a seemingly impassable barrier combining toxic gases, extreme temperature gradients, and unstable ground, he fabricated a protective suit from materials gathered throughout his journey. On day 30, alarms sounded in the observation center as Marcus's vital signs showed extreme stress. He had encountered one of Zone 7's most dangerous features, a gravity fluctuation corridor combined with hallucinogenic spores. Many cadets had been extracted from this section, their minds unable to process the conflicting sensory information. "Prepare emergency extraction," ordered Director Kuvlax, his skin darkening with concern. "Wait," Instructor Krell countered. "Look at his biochemistry." Marcus's readings showed his body producing natural countermeasures, stress hormones shifting to optimize brain function, immune responses targeting the hallucinogens. Within minutes, his vital signs stabilized. "Impossible," whispered Commander Frell. "No species can self-regulate to that degree." "Apparently, Deathworlders can," the Commandant replied quietly. On the morning of Day 32, Marcus emerged from the final exit portal of Zone 7. He stood straight, his environmental suit tattered but functional, his pack still secured to his back. Despite clear signs of physical strain, weight loss, minor injuries, fatigue, he remained fully alert and operational. The silence in the observation center was absolute. Marcus Chen, first-year cadet, first human at the Academy, had completed the Centauri trials in 32 days, breaking the previous record by 10 full days. The formal completion ceremony 2 days later was attended by every cadet and instructor at the Academy. Even representatives from the Confederation Council had arrived to witness this unprecedented achievement. Marcus stood at attention in his dress uniform, the newly awarded Centauri Medal, a crystalline emblem that captured and refracted light in a distinctive pattern, prominent on his chest. Commandant Vox Air addressed the assembly. The Centauri trials were established 107 standard years ago to identify exceptional officer candidates. In that time, only 63 cadets have successfully completed them. Today, we recognize not only a new record but a profound reminder of what we seek to build in this confederation, the bringing together of diverse evolutionary paths to create something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The Commandant turned to Marcus. "Cadet Chen, your achievement forces us to reconsider our understanding of your species. Where we saw limitation, you showed adaptation. Where we expected failure, you demonstrated innovation. Your performance in the trials will be studied by future generations of officers." Commander Vril approached, her scales now displaying patterns of formal respect rather than skepticism. "I believe your species too primitive for our methods," she said simply. "I was incorrect. The Confederation is stronger with Earth's inclusion." Later that evening, as celebrations continued throughout the station, Marcus sat quietly with Zerix and several other cadets who had become his friends during the ordeal. "You've changed everything," Zerix said softly. "Already, the Council is discussing expedited integration protocols for Earth." Marcus smiled slightly. "I'm just one human. Wait until they meet the rest of us." "That," remarked Instructor Krell, joining their table, "is precisely what both excites and terrifies much of the Confederation. If one average human can accomplish this, what might your species achieve collectively?" Marcus looked out through the viewport at the stars beyond, the same stars visible from Earth, yet now representing not distant mysteries but future homes and allies. "We'll find out together," he replied. 3 days later, the Academy received notice. Earth was sending 3 more cadets for the next term. The betting pools were already forming on how quickly they would attempt the trials. As for Marcus Chen, his next challenge awaited, teaching aliens to understand that humans were neither miraculous nor terrifying, but simply another expression of life's endless adaptability. That, perhaps, would prove more challenging than any trial the Academy could devise.